opening night. It was a revelation, and we are very proud of the work Nuno is doing at the moment in the States. And let's hear from him. Thank you.
Thank you, Rui. Well, it's pretty cool. I have to say, you're a far less intimidating audience than on Monday, when I was doing the keynote with 20,000 people seeing it. Feedzai, we do risk management for some of the largest financial institutions out there, and some of the most interesting merchants in the world as well. I would actually like to play a video of what we did on Monday.
With my team at Feedzai, we are pushing past new boundaries, using artificial intelligence to fight financial crime for some of the world's largest companies. We seek to keep pushing the limits of knowledge and innovation. And it's Feedzai's mission to explore these new tech frontiers, but also to use what we build to build a better world. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and privilege to present.
Can you hear me? My name is Stephen Hawking. I would like to thank Feedzai for inviting me to speak with you today.
And I think, as a Portuguese, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would I ever be introducing Stephen Hawking at something like Web Summit, I would say, no idea. No, it's not going to happen. But the reality is that just happened. So what it shows is you can build technology from pretty much anywhere in the world. I happen to do it from Lisbon. But there's really, if you have the talent and the stamina and the willingness, there's really no boundaries of what can be done. And talk about Feedzai. I mean, it is the company that is still today headquarters in Lisbon. And I remember 3 or 4 years ago, people telling me, there's no way you're going to be able to raise money from US investors in Portugal. Portugal was under IMF supervision three years ago. Well, reality is we did, and we count among some of our investors, Capital One, Citibank, some SAP, some of the world's largest investors are investors in Feedzai. And the reason why they do it is because we really deliver on our promise on keeping customers safe, merchants, and financial institutions. And in reality, what we've seen is when we work with other tech companies, and some of them are here in the audience, we deliver to them, and then they introduce us to other customers that then create a network effect of what can be done. And as a consequence of that, we've grown quite well. It's about 300 people in the company. We've almost tripled this year, and we work with something like 10 of the top 25 banks in the world. What we do is essentially every single day we will look at over $3 billion in transactions of volume that goes through our systems for risk assessment, basically to understand if it's you buying an item or if it's someone that stole your credit card or your credentials impersonating you. And that's, to me, it's important because it's what I call a do-good cause. I mean, what we do is good for the world and really matters. It helps society. It makes us a safer and better society. And before we go to Q&A, I mean, a really interesting thing. Remember when I was telling people saying that we couldn't raise money from Portugal? Well, we just did. We just raised another $50 million about a month ago from a US investor, or led by US investors, into a Portuguese company. So for those of you out there that hear all the no's, why you cannot do it from whatever region you come, you can. If you have the product and the technology and the willingness, you can do pretty much. And if you deliver something of value to the market, you can certainly achieve that. So that was my opening intro.
Thank you, Nuno. Well, I would like to question you about co-founders, partners, mentors that were important or that are important for you. How do you see the strength of these?
Yeah, I would start with the co-founders part, because sometimes, like in most companies, Microsoft had Bill Gates as the front man, but the reality is there was a Ballmer, there was a bunch of people without whom he would have not done anything. And this applies to every company out there, and Feedzai is no exception. Myself, Paulo and Pedro, my two co-founders, I mean, we typically say it's like a three-leg stool, right? I mean, if one leg fails, the whole stool falls down. And people sometimes underestimate that, but that's really the case. Because if I'm out there, in my case, I'm what you'd call a CEO sales, right? Kind of like more the outward, more the let's say the drummer of the machine. But if you don't deliver on what your promise is, you lose credibility. So what we need, in my case, my co-founders and the rest of the team, is to deliver on what we say that we do. Because if you don't do that, the network effect I was talking about just doesn't happen. So it's fundamental to have a very strong, cohesive team that each of them focus on different areas of what it is to build a company. But if that's not there, you might have the best technology, you might have the best market, but it's not going to work.
Okay, thank you. Now, I would like to ask you a kind of a tricky question, because you are a man from the world, you travel, you meet many people, you are aware of what's going on in the world of technology and so on. So I assume that you keep seeing new business opportunities, but at the same time, I'm sure you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you must focus completely on your project, otherwise things are not going to happen. So my question is, have you found recently some business opportunities that you would say, I wish I had the time to do this, and that you can share with the audience? Maybe someone wants to grab that opportunity and do it?
Yeah, I mean, the problem of being an entrepreneur is like you have all these ideas and all these things that you'd like to be doing. But, as I was saying, I mean, it's all about execution when you're building a business. And you have to be obsessed. It's not focused. You have to be obsessed with that business. What I've been fortunate to do is, as the company grows and investors understand that dynamic, I am not doing anything myself, but what I'm doing is doing some investments, some counseling and mentoring of other ideas that I find that are interesting, and try and say, look, I've done it this way, maybe you can do it that way. I am particularly interested in things that matter for society. I'm not interested in yet another app or yet another gimmick. I'm interested in causes that really matter for the better of all of us. So whenever I see those type of ideas, I tend to be excited about them. But for the time being, I'll let someone else execute them. I might fund one or two. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you have a very interesting personal story, and if you don't mind sharing that, I think it would be good for the audience to know how did you start, where did you start, because sometimes people don't know about that, and I think that's very important.
I've been told many times by people that, oh, you are lucky because you know people. Like, well, the reality is, and I've shared this story a number of times, my father is a construction worker, so I really come from nothing. And the interesting thing there is, I mean, if you have the willingness and the brain power, I mean, you just go and do it yourself. The world today is the world has never been so democratic as it is. I mean, people will give you a chance if you have what it takes. And I think myself, among others, there's many people who come from very humble backgrounds that because they worked hard, they seized the opportunities. Then they succeeded and they fulfill or try to fulfill their dreams. I think the key point is, frankly, is just work your ass off, work really hard, get out there and talk to as many people, and if you have something of value, someone will notice. I mean, today we're here, we've raised $82 million, but I remember that 4 years ago, no one would give me a cent, so,
Yeah, just to finish, we have run out of time. Just to share with you, my grandfather also came from a very low background, and also in the interior of Portugal many years ago. It was really difficult, and then he succeeded. And he had a phrase that in Portuguese makes a lot of sense, and then I will try to translate it. It's called, com estudo és tudo. So if you study really hard, you can be anything that you want. And you did it. Thank you very much, Nuno. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.